So basically there's some circles here. You can see the circles in the plumb lines that I have. And so what I look at when I first see a portrait like this, instead of tracing it, what I basically do is I look at plumb lines. And so there's a line right here that shows me where the ear and the eye line is. And then I always look at a horizon line. Now his face is kind of looking at an angle, but I still look at my plumb lines. Okay, I'm done with that.
That's great.
Are y'all happy? I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah. Could you do a zoom up of it?
Yeah. Yeah, I really like it. What I really like, and it's not completely dry yet, but look at all this texture work that we have in here. Just all really nice textures happening. I love it.
So I'm using the grey and coming round and basically outlining that eye, but I've joined the pupil on. If I'm clever, shall I zoom in so you can see that? I'm just standing up. Does that zoom in a bit so you can see?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, I will come out again because otherwise I'll be painting something off the top. Right. So before any of this dries, and that's why I wet it first, I'm just using clean water and softening that off and coming sort of round here. But essentially, that's the cat's face painted. The only thing I'm going to do is take a thirsty brush, so that's a clean damp brush, and just pull off a little bit of a highlight on that nose while it's still damp. That's a good idea. Ooh, a very bad eyebrow. Can you see? You just scratch those out.
Oh, yes.
Get hopefully a really fine line.
Yeah.
But you do need a sharper knife, and it needs to be bone dry because otherwise it'll sort of just scuff the surface. So say, you know, that one's okay. Can you see I've just put that extra whisker in, and it's a really nice way of just getting back to the white of the paper. You could, if you don't like the idea of damaging your paper, use a little tiny bit of gouache on a very fine rigger brush and just put those in.
Do you normally start with the eye when you're doing it?
I do. I always start with the eye. One time I did not. I did the eyes last, and the painting didn't turn out. And I felt like, man, I just wasted a lot of time that could have been saved. If you get the eyes right, the rest kind of doesn't matter as much.
Yeah.
Once those eyes are done, it comes alive.
And I guess you feel more connected to the creature on that you're painting as well, maybe.
Yes.
The eye. Yeah.
It is so much fun to see. And when I've had the pleasure of seeing my customers open up their portrait for the first time or look at their pet portrait that I've done. And every one of them has said, "Oh my gosh, you captured my pet." And they cry, and it's just, oh my gosh, what a gift. So yeah, the eyes are definitely the window to the soul. I love noses. Do you see this pebbly texture you get? Oh, how cool is that? The way that I achieve the pebbly texture is with salt. I will use a granulating color. Payne's Gray is perfect. And here's my practice. This right here. And I left the salt on so you could kind of see. You have to wait for the salt to dry. You can look at that. Get some pebbly texture there. I was kind of playing around. It almost has a green tone to it. So I picked out a Daniel Smith Zoisite Genuine. It's made from actual minerals. I just got that color. So I was kind of, when I do a pet portrait, if I've gotten a new color, I try to incorporate it. So that's just for me. But if you're trying to follow along at home, Payne's Gray is perfect.
So I'm going to use some of my lovely Quinn Gold and just paint the whole of the iris, leaving the highlight clear. Then I'm going to use a little bit of that turquoise. Look, if I put that there, hopefully you can see a tiny bit of the turquoise, and just go around the edge and drop some of that in to the edge. Oh, that is a bit bright, isn't it? But don't worry. I mean, it does look hideously bright at the moment. We're going to come back and take some of that out. I've got my paper on a very slight angle, just sort of 10% at the moment. So you might see it flow down a bit. I'm going to take a clean, damp brush. So I've just cleaned it off, dried it on my towel, and then I am going to pull out some of that colour so that we've got a nice soft highlight at the bottom of the eye, to try and make it look more ball-like, because cat's eyes are just stunning. What we could also do if we wanted to, I'll get a little of that French ultramarine, because there's quite a shadow at the top of the eye, and I could just put in a few little specks of colour into there and let them sort of form those flecks that you have in a iris. You know, if it's too wet and when you pulled out that soft highlight, the water will flow back into it. So just clean your brush off again and just pull it out. But that should be fine. That, you know, for example, if I lift this up to the camera, can you see I'm getting a little bloom in this area here?
Yeah.
Just where the wet is going back up. You see, I think that is beautiful, and that's a happy bloom that I didn't particularly mean to be there, but I've noted it, so I'll leave it alone, and that's me being terribly clever and making a lovely furry mark without being terribly clever. So, actually, though I said that was too much, that's quite a nice mark. So this is great fun, this bit. I mean, we're playing, we're making patterns, we're enjoying it, and we're not being overly precise, as in, as say, this cat has got a certain number of whiskers. If ours has more or less, that doesn't matter. We're sort of looking at balance and trying to get an interesting composition. So using loads of water to get really soft, as I say, wafts of colour that just define areas that we want them to.
For positioning a portrait on a canvas, whether it's a square, a rectangle, whatever, you would generally allow a little bit more space in front of the face, whether it's a dog, another animal, or a person. Allow space for them to look into, rather than having the head over here and they're just, you know, almost out of the painting sort of thing. So position it slightly to the left so you've got a bit more space. Obviously, if they're looking straight at you, it's a little bit different, but that's not normally such a good pose to have for a portrait. So they would normally, even if it's a person, they would normally be looking slightly to the side and then their eyes looking at you, but give them a little bit more space in front of the face. He's going to be slightly darker down this side here, just because of the way his shoulder turns as well. So I'm keeping it a little bit lighter on this side. The edge of his upper lip comes down and round. And I'll emphasise that with some more light in a minute. And then grey underneath there, where it's coming round. Following on roughly down that line with some slightly darker fur, just coming down. And some dark, slightly darker at the bottom here, it's going into some shadow. You know, I'd like to still do a little bit more work on these eyes as yet, because I don't think they're quite there. So just quite a deep goldy brown, just to go in on this side a little bit here. But taking it back again slightly. I think that eye just needs to, let's just get a bit more of the dark. I think it just needs to come back slightly here. That little triangle bit just needs to come back in. Just a dab with the knife. It doesn't have to be anything much. Catching the light a little bit on his, not enough, on his lower lid there. All the little touches that help to start to bring it really to life. Okay, so he's almost done, I would say, for now. I'd probably go away, have a think about him, come back, look at it with fresh eyes again, and possibly make, a few more tweaks, which I think is a good thing to do with almost any painting. Give it a little bit of breathing space before you come back to it and revisit.